with this, I would like to request Dr. Malika Goel for diagnostic tools in DME.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Doctor. I'd like to thank Professor Azad, Dr. Lalit Verma, and the AIOS for this opportunity. So I'll be speaking on the diagnostic tools, especially with a focus on screening methodologies. So as the previous speaker mentioned, the reason to screen is because it happens, the complications can happen without any symptoms, and these are preventable with early treatment. And hence screening protocols can identify diabetic retinopathy at a treatable stage. Now, these are the diagnostic tools that we have for DME and retinopathy. However, most of these are not sustainable with the huge numbers, the millions of patients with diabetes, and especially with limited resources in developing countries. So the future lies with artificial intelligence systems which use machine learning and deep learning. These are cloud-based and are able to take retinal images, automatically exclude suboptimal images, analyze them, compare with patients' previous images, and generate a number which gives the likelihood of referable diabetic retinopathy being present. And several systems are already available, but not FDA approved yet. The advantages are that these can grade thousands of images a day without getting tired. They can provide results within minutes and seconds of taking the photographs. And scaling up means simply acquiring more hardware. But while those are not yet available, what we do have is fundus imaging. The conventional imaging systems capture the central 30 to 50 degrees. Wide field imaging is more than 50 degrees, and ultra wide field imaging is angle more than 100 degrees. These are the systems that are available with ultra wide field imaging. There was a landmark study by Dr. Ailo et al. In 2018, it was published with 737 eyes, where they compared the standard fundus camera with the ultra wide field imaging. And they found that approximately 34% of diabetic lesions are outside the standard 7 fields of the regular fundus camera. And in fact, neovascularization is seen outside the regular fields in 45% of the cases. So basically, we are missing blinding retinopathy if we go just by the standard photography. 26.9% had greater severity of diabetic retinopathy on the ultra wide field images. But in both systems, maximizing the image quality is of paramount importance for accurate results. The other advantages of ultra wide field are that no dilation is required, no contact lens, and acquisition time is less than half of standard photography. Evaluation time required is less by 30%. Much less images are ungradable or undecipherable. And when you see the ultra wide field images, the severity scoring matches the clinical examination in 70% and is different from the clinical exam by within only a level in up to 93% of the patients. So this is a definite improvement over the standard photography for detection, grading, and treating diabetes. Which shows us the leakage, the enlargement of FAZ, capillary non-perfusion, and neovascularization. So this is in DME, focal leaks, which allow us to do focal laser, diffuse leaks, which are better treated with injections. And if you see, the leakages can be identified away from the exudates in the inferotemporal area as well. So angiography can give us an idea about the leaking. Cystoid macular edema, which gives an idea about how to treat. Laser doesn't usually work. It could be a combination of the two patterns, the diffuse component requiring laser and the cystoid component responding better to injections. And then severe macular ischemia, which gives a guarded visual prognosis. A lot of non-perfusion. And importantly, unsuspected neovascularization when we are looking for DME only. And even sometimes we can pick up neovascularization iris, which was not suspected from a featureless retina. The foveal vascular zone, very important in diabetic macular edema, which gets enlarged and irregular in diabetics. And ultra-wide field angiography can pick up new vessels outside the standard zones. And we know that that is more often associated with diabetic maculopathy. The next instrument, which is the most important, is the OCT, which gives us a histological cross-section of the central retina. These are the 10 layers, and it assesses the central 6 mm, of which the central 1 mm is the fovea. And this gives us retinal thickness maps. As you see, the blue line showing that the retina is thinner than normal in the on the right side, so that even if the patient's edema is improved, vision may not improve much. It shows us the type of edema, cystoid macular edema, or subfoveal fluid, which has a better prognosis, or an exudate, which can be followed up on treatment, exudate with membrane, which has a poorer prognosis. And it helps to monitor the response to treatment so that we can change the management. This is showing release of VMT after giving an injection so that surgery can be avoided. Spontaneous VMT after laser. So this is the way OCT at every visit helps in treating a patient. This is where an ERM is not allowing the macular edema to resolve, and post-vitrectomy it resolves. Similarly, another patient. Very importantly, it gives us the prognosis. Damage or disruption of the external retinal layers gives a poor prognosis right in the beginning. Or the presence of drill. This is the absence of demarcation between the inner layers. As shown here, more than 50% of the area in the central 1000 microns, if it is affected, that is considered significant for poor prognosis. And it correlates with capillary non-perfusion and FAZ side. The OCT also allows us to see a lot of other biomarkers for prognosis. It helps us to track a patient's increasing vitreomacular traction and also the macular contour in a TRD with lamellar macular hole, traction, etc. It helps to assess whether there is only macular edema or whether the retinal detachment has also involved the macula. This we cannot see by any other means except OCT. And even in the presence of significant vitreous opacity, we can still do an OCT and diagnose macular edema. It also detects thinning or ischemia, and most importantly, perifoveal telangiectasia, which does not need treatment and has a guarded prognosis. And this coexists with diabetics very often. Or an outer lamellar macular hole, where you will not continue treating because you know the cause for the problem. Now we come to OCT angiography, which is also like fluorescent angiography, but has several advantages in being non-invasive and being automated, so it gives us a lot of analytic data. The disadvantage is, the advantages include, apart from non-invasive, is it can detect capillary non-perfusion areas better than fluorescent because it is not overshadowed by the leakage of fluorescent, and gives several three-dimensional images. And there are OCTA biomarkers like retinal vascular density, FAZ size, intercapillary spacing, fractal dimensions. And this is to show that it can be superior to FFA in capturing the microaneurysms, as you see with the arrow on the right. The OCTA has picked up microaneurysms which are not seen on the FFA on the left. The FAZ size and the capillary dropout areas are very clearly seen in the superficial and deep capillary plexus. And the non-perfusion, as you see on the right side, is also correlating with the disruption of the external limiting layer on the B-scan OCT, which gives the poor prognosis. So now,
can I request you to please sum up?
Okay. This shows the new vessels and the non-perfusion. How much time do I have now?
We don't have time. If you want to, if there are any questions, I'll give you 1 minute to answer those questions. And then if there are no questions, you can continue for 1 minute for your presentation.
So 1 minute more now, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
So you don't have any questions then.
Okay. So autofluorescence is another, the disadvantages of OCTA is that the field of view is very small and it cannot assess the leakage or the delayed transit time. And it takes a lot of time to take the images. Alignment is a problem. Patient cooperation is a problem. Adaptive optics and multimodal approaches are also useful, especially microperimetry, which gives the functional performance of the macula. and can be used with advantage. These are newer tools. So in summary, the delivery of these screening methods is moving at a fast pace. It is only the artificial intelligence-based systems that are the future. But currently for diabetic macular edema, it is the OCT, which is the morphologic gold standard, and microperimetry for functional evaluation. For diabetic retinopathy, it is the non-mydriatic ultra-wide field, fundus imaging, and fluorescent angiography.